War Report coming live every Tuesday at 7 with Steve, Cat, Ryan, Amanda, and Eric. And the voice of NEW, Vince Berry. Hitting all the topics like a clothesline flurry. Turn up your speakers and hear them out. You can listen from your car, even on your couch. They too raw, who NXT? Handing out smackdowns, follow on IG. Plus, it's sponsored by TagMeADate. Go to YouTube and sub now for every update. It's all wrestling here. No safe space, now listen in. Time to hear from some of the greats.
Ladies and gentlemen, I demand all your gratitude for the longest reigning Intercontinental Heavyweight Champion in history.
It has been nothing short.
Wow.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of the War Report After Dark.
After Dark.
How do we not open with the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion of all time, Gunther?
I'm still shocked that we had no appearance from Honky Tonk. We had nothing, no video thing. Like, because they're both heels. He could be supportive of the heel. He could be mad.
Yeah, but based on Gunther's promo, none of them mattered.
Well, yeah.
They're shit compared to Gunther.
Yeah. No, I know. And that's wonderful that, he's able to do that. And listen, he staked his claim as the best, but it's just funny because, they weren't even going to break it with Santino, but they had the honkometer.
Right.
You know what I mean? They had Honky Tonk Man got involved with that. It was interesting that, especially with Chad Gable, who's such a goofy character right now. By the way, in an interview, Gunther was like, I showed Jordan and Gable, American Alpha against the Revival from NXT in my wrestling training school classes. I was showing my students this thing. He's like, I'm a big fan of Chad Gable. He's like, I think he's a little too goofy right now. So it's interesting that Gunther's like, he's too goofy. He needs to be more serious. But with the goofy character, you had the opportunity for, Chad Gable to like embody the Honky Tonk Man, for the Honky Tonk Man to come give him a pep talk for something, man. I don't know. I was thinking with the record passing,
listen,
he could be involved there somewhere. I don't know.
Gable being goofy is what got him over.
Right.
It's what got him the ability to have this match against Gunther and really be one of the few to really take it to Gunther and actually
actually take it to him. You're right.
To the point where I do think Gable will be the one. I think Gable will be the one to defeat Gunther for that IC title, which will then catapult Gunther to main event status. But I think this is your David Goliath story, and David eventually is going to take down Goliath. I think, and he's that good where it's believable because we just saw how he can take him to the limit. And Gable's promo on Raw, was everything.
Yeah,
about his oldest daughter, and you made her cry, and I'll make sure next time she leaves smiling, and it was great. I mean, that whole segment was great. Even the intro by Kaiser, which that's my favorite thing. Just the way he does it, his delivery, everything's great. Before we start, I just want to say thank you to everyone for the Facebook comments on my page on Sunday. I assume that's Tara. You're very welcome.
Yeah, of course.
And then David Rosca off to an early start today.
Early start.
This one,
8:30.
this one came in at 8:30. Trish Stratus was on Cheaper by the Dozen 1 and 2. You know, it's funny. I've seen both of those movies, and I don't recall her being in it. So now I have to go back and look.
I'm gonna have to go back and see that.
This Sunday will be the 17th anniversary when she became second Perfect 10, winning her 7th women's champion by making Lita tapping out with a sharpshooter. And David also predicts that Gunther will lose the IC championship. And I said that last week also. I think Gunther is definitely going to be losing now that he has officially broken the record. I could see that happening at the next pay-per-view, quite honestly.
Yeah, but we've been saying that about like, oh, Roman broke the 1,000-day thing. Now he'll lose that title anytime now, and it's like, yeah, maybe. So we'll see. But I think out of everybody, Gunther probably has the target on his back for a title change, like the most likely title change. Yeah, I mean, listen, Gunther's done all he can do with this. Not all he can do with it. I'm sure he can do more. But what I'm saying is,
it is time for Gunther to be in the main event.
Just like, and again, this is a different guy in a different company, but like Orange Cassidy defended that international title like 33 times before losing it to Moxley at All Out. And listen, he deserved everything he got. Orange Cassidy, he defended that title great over the last year or whatever it was that he had the title, but it was time. And John Moxley's, if you're going to lose to somebody, losing to the former world champion, the workhorse of the company, it was basically, it's the workhorse title. It's those two guys, are despite what people might think about Orange Cassidy, like he's a hard fucking worker. He travels, he defends the title, he goes everywhere that company asked him to. And John Moxley the same way. John Moxley kept that company together when CM Punk was trying to tear it apart last year. And I say that sounds dramatic. You know what I mean? Like Punk won the title.
He was supposed to that very next day start a vacation.
Yeah.
And he canceled the vacation so that he could be that workhorse and get him through with all that bullshit.
And he hasn't taken that vacation yet either. And it's been like over a calendar year. But it's good. So again, Orange Cassidy losing that title to John Moxley frees Orange Cassidy up to do other things. And it's the same kind of thing for Gunther. Once he's no longer Intercontinental Champion, you don't have a choice at this point. He needs to win a world title. This isn't it would be nice if or whatever. This is a guy that you've teed up. You've got him on a silver platter. He's the most over Intercontinental Champion you've had since the title debuted. You know what I mean? Since Ricky the Dragon Steamboat and Roddy Piper and Macho Man and all these guys and Bret Hart were carrying it around and perfect.
Well, you know what it is with Gunther? He's been a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
Because that really was a prestigious belt. If you go back and you really think about it, the IC title was that belt that catapulted you to the next level.
Always was, yeah.
And we kind of talk about that now with Gunther. Like the next step is for him to go to the main, to the world title. And
which one, Steve? Which one?
Well, I have what I would like to see. I would like to see him in Roman, quite honestly. But I think we have to remember that there was a long time that the IC title just felt very insignificant. It wasn't that title that catapulted people. It just lost its whatever. And a lot of it had to do with the people carrying it. Maybe it had something to do with the positions they were put in at the time. But then you have a guy like Gunther comes around who has really brought prestige and respect back to that title and making it known that the only place I go from here is that world title. So, Vince, you got some praise on here.
That's Hank. Yeah.
Vince is the GOAT, and I have WWE hair, bro.
You can kind of see it in his profile picture there. Hank is another guy. Hank's a veteran. Thank you for your service, sir. He went in right after. He was one of the first groups of people from the U.S. military to land boots on the ground after 9/11. And I know we just had that anniversary the other day. So thank you for your service, Hank. Yeah, and he got back and now he does stand-up comedy, and he's got,
Thank you.
Yeah. But no, he does stand-up. He does a whole bunch of stuff. He's a really cool cat. And he does, if you can see, if you look at his profile picture, he's definitely got WWE hair. People think that he looks like a little bit like if the Cowardly Lion was a human. He has like that curly hair.
That's funny.
But Hank's a good guy, and he has a podcast he does in the mornings. I've been on a couple times. He has a lot of he has MMA fighters and bare knuckle fighting championship guys on. It's a very good show. So
Cool.
Thanks for dropping in, Hank. Hank, if you're still listening, put on I know I'm not a morning person, but message me and I'll make a special. I'll wake up early and do your show, Hank. Thank you, buddy. Excellent. All right, he's listening. Thanks for listening, Hank. But yeah, I think you've got prestige from Gunther, and now you've got the opportunity to make. Gunther's already made. Chad Gable's almost there. If Chad wins and beats Gunther, he gets put over big time. And then you go and you have Gunther win a world title, and he gets over big, and you've made a series of people. You know what I mean? It's not just like Gunther's over. You can definitely make this where Gunther passing the title on to Chad and then winning the world title elevates those two guys and then anybody else that they're competing with. So, good on them for thinking of the mid card, because there was a point where they didn't.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it was sad. So I almost don't want to see Gunther lose the title, but I think Gable's a valid, replacement.
It's going to end up being one of those gimmick matches, like a Falls Count Anywhere or a Last Man Standing or something, because they're going to want to give Gable the win, but they're not going to want to give anybody the pinfall over Gunther, I think.
I don't know. I feel like it's time where Gunther can take a pin. And
he could take a roll. Could you imagine like one of those, like a Chaos Theory, like the Chaos Theory German suplex where like you do the rolling German, like you roll backwards. If he did one of those rolling, like if Chad Gable grabbed Gunther and did a rolling German suplex and then rolled again into a roll up and got the 3
and then like he kicks out, but it was right. But it was right after. Right, it was immediately after, and almost like Hogan and Warrior.
Yes,
like Hogan kicked out immediately, was like, "What the fuck?" And then
and then Gunther could pop up and do the same thing. Yeah, and because Gable is small, but he knows how to wrestle, so he can use the leverage, and that's the story they've been telling. He went out there last night. They had that 6-man match, and I mean, he just went out there house of fire and proved that he's worthy.
He's great. He really is great. I'm a big fan. So. Couple things Monday Night Raw, right?
Yeah.
The last official show that Vince McMahon has majority stake in the company.
And that any McMahon will own the company. Like this was his dad and his granddad's company at one point. It was supposed to be his daughter or sons and then his grandkids, and it's not.
As of today, it's not.
As of today, for the first time in
our lifetimes,
a lot of people's lifetimes, man, because it goes all the way to Jess McMahon and Capital Wrestling and all the other shit they did.
That's
so like it goes way back. But it's a weird feeling because I see the picture. Did you see the picture of it's not the one upstairs, it's the one in front of all those giant fake titles. And you got Vince McMahon in the center, you got Daniel Cormier, and you got all these other guys, and then you got Bianca and Montez and Triple H on the side. Vince McMahon has the biggest smile in that photo.
Yep. Well, Triple H just earned like billions of dollars.
Yeah, like $8.9 billion, $9 billion, something crazy. Triple H has the saddest face in that photo. And I didn't think it was over until that moment. And I saw that picture. I'm like, fuck, this shit's over. He knows. He knows he's done. He knows that if Vince really gets annoyed at Vince is back as executive chairman or whatever it is. And there's literally one person in the company higher than him, who's the actual CEO. So like Vince is already back making changes. Triple H knows it's over. Triple H knows that his time running Raw or SmackDown or whatever, or even being part of the company, could be ticking down.
I still think Triple H is still going to have a major part. I really do, because if Endeavor's smart, right? they can see from the time Triple H stepped into the role and Vince stepped out,
Yeah.
the massive growth, not only in numbers on TV, but house shows. I mean, this is the first time in a long time that WWE is selling out house shows. So, they're doing something right. Endeavor, they're corporate, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
when you deal with corporate, it's all about numbers. It's what have you done for me lately? So
Absolutely.
if they look at that trajectory of when Trips took over, there's no way in my why would you come in and fix something that's not broken? You know what I mean? Triple H went in and fixed shit that was broken. There's not much that needs to be fixed right now. We're in a good place. Raw has been entertaining. 3 hours or not, it's been entertaining. It's still fucking long, but it's been entertaining. SmackDown has been incredible. Between the Judgment Day, the Bloodline, everything is working right now for the most part.
Right. It's clicking, yeah.
So, but here's another thing. And I wanted to get your opinion. Anyone that listens to this show knows that I'm also a fan of Busted Open Radio. And any chance I get, I listen. And Bully Ray is a member of the team at Busted Open with Dave LaGreca and Tommy Dreamer and Mark Henry and
Thunder Rosa goes on there.
Thunder Rosa, yeah. She's a host also.
Yeah.
So they're all on. So Bully Ray was. I found this very interesting, and if he was writing, this is kind of something that he pointed out he would have done. And I thought this was brilliant. Last night is 9/11. So everybody, for the most part, remembers it like it was yesterday. We can remember where we were, what we were wearing, who we were with. I mean, it's. But then you have people like Zelina Vega, who not only suffer with it every 9/11, but more so than others because she lost her father in 9/11. So this came up on the show that the mutual feeling is that WWE is dropping the ball because you have a story that wrote itself. And it's not so often that dates align where you could really capitalize and do something. You had Zelina in Puerto Rico. She lost fighting for the women's title. And she was so beyond over.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not even funny. And yes, they were in Puerto Rico. But she was just as over the following week as well when she came out on TV.
Yeah, but that's also the place, like, don't you do that? Don't you have the big win in Puerto Rico where
But WWE is notorious for not doing that.
Exactly.
AEW would have, right? Saraya, a perfect example.
Thunder Rosa in Texas won the title in Texas as well.
Right. So here's kind of where I'm going. Bully Ray, because they dropped the ball in Puerto Rico and they didn't give her the rub. This is going to help multiple talents.
Mm-hmm.
Follow me on this. You're backstage. They're promoting Rhea versus Gonzalez for the main event for the women's title. Gonzalez walks into the women's locker room and runs into Zelina, who's in street clothes. And she's looking at a picture in her locker of her father. And she's remembering this day. Gonzalez goes up to Vega and says, Zelina, you should take this shot tonight and go out there and fight Rhea. It would mean more to you, especially on this day, than anyone else. I really want you to take my shot. And then Adam Pearce comes in and looks at Raquel and says, are you serious? You really want to give up your spot? And she says, nobody deserves it more than Zelina on this day. And Zelina goes out And she lies, she cheats, she steals, whatever she has to do, she gets the rub, even if it's only for a week. Where next week Rhea destroys, annihilates her in record time. Who gives a shit? But she had her moment where she could hold up that belt, look up, and say, I did it, Dad. I did it for you. Because she tells the story that she got into wrestling because that was her bond with her father.
Yeah, that's, oh my God.
So when he died, she was 10, and she made a decision then she was going to become a pro wrestler. So you have the story. And not only does it give Zelina that moment, but how over does Raquel get now as a babyface? Because she gave her opportunity up.
Can I tell you, Raquel right now to me is toast because she's just, the way they present her is
she
boring.
Does nothing for me. She does nothing for me. The back flex annoys me now. I think she should have stayed heel. I think that's the problem. I don't like her as a face, maybe because I didn't mind her as a heel. So that could possibly be. But
I hate to be a nerd about it, but even the name change is not as catchy. Raquel Rodriguez is like, there's a lot of R's there.
Well, that's why they did it, so she could roll the tongue and do the whole. So real quick, now I just want to go back and say this came from Bully Ray. This was his idea. This was he was writing. This is what the way he told the story. It gave me goosebumps because it's real shit. And that's the stuff that makes memories. That's the stuff that makes those moments that you don't ever forget. And I just thought about that, and I was like, that was brilliant. Like the way they should have done it, and they missed the opportunity yet again. In fact, she didn't even appear on the show, which
is
kind of, I think that's kind of poor taste. But so I wanted to just see what you thought. I thought that was a brilliant idea. I mean, WWE, so of course they wouldn't do it.
Right, but I've talked about this maybe in weeks prior because I've mentioned the whole during the middle of the hottest run of Hogan's heel turn in WCW, Lex Luger won the world title for a week.
Right.
It didn't derail Sting. Sting still won at Starrcade. People were happy that he won at Starrcade. You know what I mean? Like especially because Lex Luger was so over to the point where he was seen as, oh man, well, Sting is supposed to do this, but the NWO was taking such a hold of WCW that, okay, Lex Luger's our hero now. Like he won. He's the guy that stopped the NWO. He defeated Hulk Hogan, right? There's a lot of hype behind it. And then the next week, he just got beat the fuck up. Yeah. So if that happened to in the storyline that you're talking about, I think it's a good idea because you've got this plucky, and she's already lost once quickly. Like that Puerto Rico match was basically a squash match. It was like 5 or 6 minutes long, if I'm not correct.
Yeah, it wasn't much longer.
It wasn't. So, having her get a win and a flash win or a shock win, or, Dom tries to use the Money in the Bank briefcase and hits Rhea instead of hitting, any kind of thing could happen where she gets, there's a flash title and then Rhea just wins the next week.
I think actually the way Bully Ray put it, it's she can always slip on the banana peel.
That's the term. Yeah, slipping on the banana peel is the wrestling term. But here's the other thing. We've talked about this earlier. WWE is obsessed right now, and I think it's because of this merger, and not necessarily because of the merger, but because they're trying to establish like this new era of not new generation, but like this, everything's turned over now. It's completely different than it once was. So they're trying to modernize their records. They realized a lot of the records they have stood for 30 or so years. And they're kind of reassessing them as like, okay, well, at one point it was beneficial to us to have somebody like the Honky Tonk Man be the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion. Now I guess it's kind of a passe thing. Nobody knows what the fuck the Honky Tonk Man was, and you got a big over guy like Gunther, so you go for it. But there's still every title reign, if you think in the last couple of years since they came back from the pandemic, has been a long extended title reign. And it wasn't the case before that, where WWE was doing a lot of quick, like world titles would change very quickly. I think they need to reach a happy medium of not hot-shotting the titles, but also not just having people hold titles for so long that it just loses all meaning.
It's funny because there was a time that we sat here and we said, what the fuck? These titles don't mean shit because they're swapping every other week. And then we have an era where they're holding them for long periods of time and we're still not happy, that we're still looking for that happy medium. I'm not saying I don't necessarily disagree with you, with the exception of Roman Reigns. As far as I'm concerned, that motherfucker could hold the title another 5 years and I wouldn't care.
And he might. Like,
I don't think it'll be 5 years.
I know, but here's the thing. So they're trying to set up this they're keeping Cody involved in this bloodline thing in the background by like arranging Jey Uso's trade to Raw or whatever.
Well, and notice too, if you paid attention on Raw, when Cody came out to cut his promo, but right before he got interrupted by Dominic, he says, I know what I want to talk about. I want to talk about Jey Uso coming to Raw, and then Dominic came out.
Right.
I have a feeling that might have been when he said, you guys got Jay, but I've been traded to SmackDown. Because I think ultimately that's the move too, that he's going to SmackDown. So I think the fact that he keeps getting interrupted, I think eventually he's just going to show up on SmackDown and be like, all right, well, I'm on SmackDown now.
Yeah, I don't know, dude. It's all personal preference. Wrestling is, I'm in a whiskey drinking group, and they say the best whiskey is the way that you like to enjoy it in the glass that's in your hand. So, I don't want to tell anybody anybody's wrong or whatever, but I really don't like year to year WrestleMania rematches or resetting up the same main event. Like, I didn't like that we had to have Cena and Rock twice in a lifetime, 1 year apart from each other. It just did nothing for me. Even though, like, some of this, was Undertaker, correct me if I'm wrong, was Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, those two back-to-back matches where Shawn eventually retired? Was it 25 and 26?
I believe so.
That's the only one. That's the only one I like. All the other ones I don't like the concept of, because I just feel like you're holding everybody in the same place for a year, including those main eventers, but you're not, by not letting the year play out and seeing who's organically over at the Royal Rumble 2024 and just picking Cody in 2023 seems like you're not giving your Chad Gables and your Gunthers and other guys the chance to get over. You're like, no, this is what we picked last year and it'll be funny if we go somewhere else. But it's like, I know for a fact that you fucking people rewrote WrestleMania 30, like on the plane ride over. Like, you didn't decide the finish of Brock Lesnar Undertaker WrestleMania 30 until 15 minutes into the match. You know what I mean? Like, it's not set in stone. To me, I'll let you, say your piece on it after. I just don't. The idea that WrestleMania has already been decided, it just feels unexciting. Like,
I mean, I feel like they have WrestleMania main event planned out for the following year at the current WrestleMania.
Probably
like they always know a year or two ahead kind of the idea of what the storyline is going to be and who we're going to push to get there. So that's not necessarily a surprise to me, I guess. I don't know. I don't necessarily, it doesn't bother me as much as it bothers you, as long as the matches are good. Like the Cena Rock one, I didn't mind that 2 years in a row. I didn't. I guess maybe a lot of the build up, a lot of the promos, the shit talking, it like helped me stay into it, I guess. I'm not opposed to Cody Roman again, but I would rather see Gunther Roman.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I honestly would rather see Cody go after Seth Rollins again and go for that belt, to be honest, even though we've all agreed that it would not feel the same if he didn't take it from Roman. But at this point, I would kind of rather that. But Cody's the guy. I mean, whether we like it or not, he's the John Cena. This is the guy that's selling out. This is the guy that is staying after every house show for at least 30, 40 minutes and taking selfies with the crowd and signing autographs, and the kids that are crying when they get his fucking weight belt when he comes out, or You know, like he's
Right.
the guy. He's got kids crying, telling him how much they love him. You know, so this is your guy. So you have to put him in WrestleMania. This is the guy people are paying
Well,
to
yeah,
see.
no, I know he has to. I'm not saying he shouldn't be at WrestleMania, but also like I
No,
don't
but
know,
I
like
mean in the main event for the title is what I
right.
mean.
But also, and I guess it just speaks to him not doing it like the idea is winning the world title or bust. He has not done, he hasn't really competed for anything else. He was in that tournament, the first round of that tournament, just to set up like the Brock Lesnar match, the tournament that Seth eventually won for that title. Yeah, so I mean, it seems like full steam ahead on Cody winning the Rumble again and going to the main event WrestleMania again. It just all feels
Cody doesn't have to necessarily win the Rumble.
he can win the Elimination Chamber or something, but it's just
Yeah. I mean, I don't see him winning the Rumble again, quite honestly. I could see Gunther winning the Rumble this year. Last year he was number 1, made it to the end. I could see him,
I
winning
would
it
have
this
called,
year.
and I know they have a plan for Cody and they plan things out. So I would have been in that headset and I would have been like, this fucking Gunther guy's winning the match.
Right.
That's a disservice to Gunther's performance in that Royal Rumble that he didn't win it.
See, now I will say this though. I'm okay if you do Cody Roman for the title at Mania.
Yeah.
If they're gonna do Gunther versus Lesnar.
Oh.
Because that's a match I want to see, and I want to see it at a Mania. So if you're gonna use Gunther for that, then I'm okay with you going with Cody and Roman.
Yeah, if they go
Because
that
right
way.
now there's really nobody else. It's not Drew McIntyre. It's not Sheamus. It's not. It's got to be Cody Rhodes. You could say Seth Rollins, but he's already a champion. Although I don't think he's going to be holding it all the way to Mania. Which, by the way, I absolutely fucking love everything they are doing with Shinsuke Nakamura now.
Oh, yeah.
Now that they're allowing him to cut these promos in Japanese with the subtitles and his facial expressions and the sword and everything else, I fucking love everything about what they're doing with Shinsuke. And I do think the next time they meet, he's getting his run.
He should 100% win that title.
Absolutely.
Especially now, and I hate doing this because it's the same thing that happened last time. You get all excited about Shinsuke potentially winning a world title,
and then he
just
loses.
Bollocks it all up. Yeah, it's terrible. Because I'm still not over, and I know I'm going back to another New Orleans WrestleMania, but I'm still not over going to WrestleMania 34, expecting a Shinsuke fucking Nakamura title change. And he loses and then turns heel after the match. Motherfucker, if you wanted to hit somebody in the balls, hit him in the balls while the referee isn't looking and then win the title. I still would have been happy. Like, it was a ponderous decision that I'm still personally offended by. I traveled all that way and you fucked me. But this could be it, man. If he really, like, he's on that roll, like where Asuka was right before winning one of those, that when Asuka first started doing the same thing Shinsuke was doing, where speaking in Japanese and they were putting subtitles or having somebody translate, like he's at that like jumping off point. If he wins that title from Seth, whew.
There were pictures that surfaced of Shinsuke from many, many years ago, way before WWE, may have been New Japan. There was a persona that he had where he painted half his face, and it was like some evil shit.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm okay. Bring that Shinsuke out. Well, I don't know if they're not going to want to because Asuka just did, but it's a little different because Asuka paints her whole face. This was like just partial,
like
face.
half of it. Yeah. He painted like half his body. I remember he did that facing Balor when Balor was Prince Devitt in New Japan as well. So like it's an established thing that Shinsuke's done before, and I don't know. Maybe there was speculation when that if Finn ever wrestled Shinsuke, that Nakamura would bring that paint out of retirement, and so far he hasn't. So
and then Balor would come out as Demon.
Right, exactly. Right. Yeah. Speaking of, and not to bring the room down, but I guess there were a lot of talks about the Demon versus the Fiend, and it never happened.
Shut up, bitch.
Yeah, I know. I was reading an interview
I heard
from Balor. Yeah. Oh, Yeah, rough stuff. So, but the thing is, that match it wasn't just that. It was before the Fiend. We almost had it with that horribly themed Sister Abigail versus the Pumpkin Demon match.
Yeah.
Which honestly, I'm kind of okay. Looking back now, even though that would have been the match between those two guys, I'm glad it didn't happen because it wasn't the right anything. Like, you could tell the WWE like marketing department or somebody in the writers, like somebody had a rotten idea to paint up Finn Balor like a jack-o'-lantern because it's Halloween, and then have Bray Wyatt cross dress, and it was just a whole yeah. So I'm glad it didn't happen then. I'm disappointed it didn't happen in general, and the fact that they brought it up, like, to fantasy book now that we can't do it anymore. It would be interesting to see how uh Howdy and Bray and the Fiend would react to the Judgment Day, and how the Judgment Day would react to those guys and react to the giant human-sized huskus, or whoever they would bring in, like, to all the weird stuff that Bray and Howdy would put the Judgment Day through. How would they react to it?
Yeah. I mean,
It could have been a world title program if Finn won that world title. You know what I mean? You think about that. He wins the Raw world title, and then
it's just
Bray's
so
on
hard
Raw.
to even
Yeah.
think about, or because
Yeah.
now it truly is fantasy booking that'll never fucking happen.
I know. Yeah, it just
sucks.
sucks. But Nakamura winning I've said this too many times, so I'm just gonna say it again and be disappointed. Shinsuke Nakamura should fucking win this world title. There's no doubt in my mind. And if he doesn't do it, my day is ruined and my mood is immeasurable, or whatever the saying is. Speaking of, that's another guy. Oh man. Apparently he is signed. LA Knight is signed through 2025 with the WWE. And he's talking to him about a contract extension. Apparently they are very far apart on numbers. Now he was trying to get this done.
He'll get there, and he's going to strong arm him, and he's smart too. He's the number one merch guy right now.
It's good timing. So it's good timing because he did it to negotiate with the original WWE corporation before the merger. Because if he could get it signed before the merger, then it doesn't matter what anybody at Endeavor or TKO or whatever the new company is. Right. Now he kind of has to go into it's the same, but it's different. At the end of the day, Vince McMahon gives the approval, but there's still one more guy above him that rubber stamps everything.
Yeah, but listen, Endeavor didn't take on WWE for it to fail. They took them on because they see the success and how far they could possibly take it. If you look at numbers and you look at ratings and what he's generating right now,
you don't want to lose that guy.
You're going to pay him what he's fucking asking for because he earned it and he deserves it.
Right.
And this guy really does deserve it, because you talk about guys that really had to work from the bottom all the way up. This
Literally
is your guy.
Yep.
This guy lived in his car. He did the shit Shawn Michaels did, 8 cans of tuna, did what he had to fucking do, built the rings, tore them down, worked his ass off, got told no, got told yes, got told he's fired, and look at him now.
Yeah. No,
and then people say, oh, he's too much like Austin. He's too much like Rock. Who gives a fuck? It's working. He could be a little mix of both. Who gives a shit? At the end of the day, he's LA Knight. He's not Stone Cold, and he's not the Brahma Bull.
And the one concern that from reading online from fans is that UFC and MMA fans have been saying that WWE fans or wrestling fans may be we may get blindsided or ambushed, because when Endeavor bought the UFC from the Fertitta brothers several years ago, there were mass layoffs. So they're like, hey,
what I'm hearing too, though, it's not going to be talent. It's going to be
a lot of production.
It's going to be production people. It's going to be the guys that we never see that are a very important piece of the puzzle.
Are people like our friends like Vlad, who just gets let go after working for the company for like 13 years. I'm sorry, Vlad, you can't say it, but I can. That's bullshit.
It is bullshit.
But anyway, he's coming out the end of it stronger anyway, because that's what Vlad does. But just like, it sucks to know that people like that are going to be, because yes, you're merging companies. It's going to happen. It just sucks that it's going to, it's going to trickle down like that to people in Connecticut and people in Florida. And So that's, that was a concern from MMA fans. So like, wrestling fans don't know what Endeavor does. He's not the first wrestler who's like, no. Do you know how many Nature Boys there have been?
Right.
I can't even tell you how many Nature Boys there have been. And I don't know. Has anybody ever gone back and watched Superstar Billy Graham? And you just go, oh, every single wrestler from Hulk Hogan to Dusty Rhodes to fucking everybody is just doing a Superstar Billy Graham impression. That's just it. And the reason WWE wrestlers are called superstars is because Billy Graham. So I guess he did, if you're going to copy somebody, you copy the best. If you're going to copy the guys from the Attitude Era, you don't copy D'Lo Brown. You don't copy, whatever. Scotty 2 Hotty. As much as I like Scotty 2 Hotty, you copy the Rock and Stone Cold. You know what I mean?
They say it's the best form of flattery, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you talk about, here's a perfect fucking example of that. Jay Lethal does by far one of the greatest Ric Flair and Macho Man impressions I've ever heard outside of the Real People. And the fact, one of the greatest segments in TNA history between the Nature Boy, Jay Lethal, and Ric Flair with a woo-off, let alone the whole promo. And how spot fucking on Jay Lethal is right in front of Ric Flair. It was amazing. Yeah. Their elbow dropping, their suit jackets, I mean, if you haven't seen it, go on YouTube and just put Ric Flair, Jay Lethal woo off. You'll find it. It's amazing. But
Jay Lethal, and
TNA 2010. There you go.
Yeah, it was David. I remember going. I was working those shows. Me and Jay Lethal were around the same age.
How do you hate Black Machismo?
It's so good. It's a good. And listen, it's not. I guess it's not respectful to the man. I don't know. Apparently, Macho called him on the phone.
Appreciated it.
I think he called him on the phone one time. Although somebody said it could have been Lanny doing an impression. But apparently he's.
Let me tell you something. I spent time with Lonnie.
Yeah.
Right? I shared a house with Lonnie.
Yeah.
I've heard his impression. You could tell the difference. Lonnie's impression was nothing special. Like,
wow, yeah,
you could tell the difference. Like, if you were a true fan, you know.
I think like most of the things TNA did, they ran it for too long and beat it into the ground, and something that was organically over got fucking mushed. But that was the TNA experience for a little while. I don't know. I think the whole thing, like the gear was just so good. The cowboy hat and the sunglasses and the tassels, like. I appreciate
the mannerisms were down to a science.
The mouth, he changes his mouth, like his mouth goes to the side, his mouth goes to the side, and like it's like Popeye, like he does this whole thing. He has a facial transformation. It's very funny. But it's different strokes for different folks. Again, I'm not going to knock anybody if they don't like something. But here's the weird thing. Since we're bringing up, and this is the point I was trying to get to here with LA Knight's contract negotiation, the TKO Endeavor merger, all this stuff. And I hate bringing this up because this is a guy that we all root for. I rooted for him in MMA, and he fucking got fired from the UFC, and now he might get fired from the WWE. We're talking about Matt Riddle. There was an incident at JFK Airport where I was first made aware of it on Instagram, and I saw Matt Riddle post a picture of a police officer / TSA agent type of person saying that he was assaulted or sexually assaulted by a police officer in JFK. And this is the person that did it, and that I never want to come back to JFK again, all this other. And then, after a few minutes was deleted because I'm sure somebody from WWE legal was like, hey, fucko, delete this shit. He posted something else, was like a selfie of himself at the airport and was like, posted some kind of passive aggressive. Then the New York Post gets a hold of it where the NYPD were made aware of somebody who was drunk and disorderly or belligerent or whatever the phrase was at JFK, and they were dispatched to JFK to assess the situation. And then the New York Post has come to learn that it is, the person involved in that situation is current WWE wrestler Matt Riddle. So Dana White, who he was he is the current president of the UFC. Him and Vince McMahon are of equal power with their respective companies. And then there's the guy, Abramson or whatever it is, right above them. Dana White has already fired Matt Riddle once. Doesn't like him. You can go back and get interviews. He doesn't like Matt Riddle. He says, "Oh, Matt Riddle is the kind of guy that says he smokes pot so he doesn't beat his children. What kind of guy is that?" He basically told the guy, you have to fight 3 times a year. And I know you like to smoke weed, but if you can't pass a drug test 3 times a year, you shouldn't have a job. At the time they were paying him $160,000 a year to have 3 fights a year, but he would get popped at the drug tests, so they just fired him. Bad blood between Dana and Matt Riddle. And Matt's not been very complimentary of the UFC either in the way that they handled him. Again, there's 2 sides to every story, but what I'm getting at is one of the top guys in this new merged company, TKO, is Dana White. And Dana White doesn't fucking like the guy. And now WWE brass has a reason to not like him because he's done this kind of public stuff. There was the allegations of him cheating on his wife. Then they got divorced. Then he started dating an adult film star, and then she got pregnant, and then he went to rehab. And there's all this stuff culminating with Matt Riddle getting drunk at JFK and having NYPD come down, and then him making a social media post about it. And now they've pulled him. For those of you who don't know, they pulled him off Raw. They've pulled him off the live touring house shows, and it appears Matt Riddle's time with WWE, unless they send him to rehab again like they would do with Jeff Hardy, it appears Matt Riddle may be on his way out.
They're going to fucking fire him, and then he's going to show up in AEW in 90 days.
Do you think you think they're really going to give him a chance? I mean, they gave Punk a chance. I didn't even get a
Tony
chance.
Khan will give him a chance. I think so.
Tony Khan's too nice of a guy. I am a big fan of Tony Khan. Every time that I've seen an AEW show, he comes out before the show and hypes the crowd up, and he's very appreciative of everybody there. And it doesn't matter if there's 2,000 people there or 10,000 people there. He's excited. He loves pro wrestling. He needs a consigliere. He needs a somebody. You know what I mean? He was too nice to Punk to the point where he let Punk kind of walk all over him. And I wasn't here for I was away, unfortunately, while this whole Punk thing dropped and he got fired. But I saw it coming. I kind of knew that day he was fired because just the way Punk was acting in the match, he was kind of, I don't want to say overselling, but he was selling very big. He was smiling too big. Like sometimes you ever do something and you're like, I know this was shitty, but I feel good that I did it. And you have that like look on your face, like, yeah, I fucking did it. What do you want me to do about it? That was Punk's attitude toward the whole thing. And I don't know. I'm a big Punk fan, big Punk supporter. I was a big supporter of his comeback. I think that this was the worst way he could have handled things. And now he's kind of, the phrase tarnished his legacy has been bandied about over the last couple weeks, but I mean, it's not inaccurate. It's kind of shitty that we have to think of it in that term of like, this was a guy who had, this whole career lined up and whatever, and spent so long away. But long story short, I'm saying, do you think now that the Punk thing has happened, if Matt Riddle gets fired, are they gun shy? Is Tony Khan gun shy about hiring somebody like that who has rumors of an attitude problem?
I think it's 2 totally different situations. Riddle doesn't really start shit with the boys. Riddle is just self-destructing.
Yeah.
He
doesn't like company stuff either. Like with the UFC, and that's it's immaterial. Like that's not, I don't like corporate shit either. So whatever.
He knew what he was getting into when he brought Jeff Hardy in.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't put it past him just for the initial shock value.
Right.
I could see one day it happening, especially if he leaves WWE. Yeah. But I would hope that he gets some help first because he is self-destructing. Yeah. I want to say this too, and you should go back and listen to last week. Because we did obviously touch on Punk. And I gotta tell you, man, and I said it last week and I'll say it again. I am a CM Punk fan. I was excited for his big return after so many years. I love what he brought to the table, the crowd reaction, especially in Chicago. But I said this before and I will stick to it. I think if WWE has the opportunity to bring him in, I think it's a mistake.
I don't think they'll do it. I think
you are injecting your locker room with cancer. And you don't need that right now because things are going the right direction. So for me, I think it's more risk than what it's worth. And would I mark out if he showed up? Yeah, I probably would, because I wouldn't see it coming, because I
right.
truly don't think that they're going to. So if they did, yeah, I would be shocked. Like if it's the Royal Rumble and his fucking music hits, yeah, I'll shit. But I got to tell you, after that settles, I'm still going to feel the same way, because what happened is going to happen again, because that's just the way Punk is. He's a straight shooter. He's going to tell you what's on his mind, whether it's the right thing to do or not. And he doesn't give a shit.
And like, listen, I'm not.
And he should be a locker room leader.
He should,
and
right?
He's not.
He
And
should
that's
know
a
better, but
problem.
also, part of this is on Jack Perry, because
Yes. Yeah, no, he's not a saint in this whole thing either. He should be let go too, quite honestly.
he might be suspended indefinitely right now. He could be let go entirely. But here's my thing. You already know that the guy is on like the razor's edge with his mood, and like it can flip on a dime. You're gonna go out there and call him out on TV? What did you think he was gonna? You knew he was at least gonna say something to you. He had him and his other friend Ace Steel, who's also fired, had no problem punching people and biting people and whatever in a fight with the elite. So, and they're main eventers. You're Jack Perry, of course and you're a foot shorter than him. Of course, he thinks he's going to be able to headlock you and do this other stuff. Should he have done it? No. And there's this like fictional account of like if Jack Perry was in WWF during the Attitude Era, that if he tried to do this to the Undertaker would have just knocked him out, and then Vince McMahon would have laughed at him. And it's this really sick.
If this was during the Attitude Era, they would have made this an on-television feud.
It absolutely would have been. It would have been a fucking first person to go through the glass of a car loses match.
Yeah.
And again, listen, the Undertaker was and is a locker room leader for WWE, whatever, but he never knocked anybody out. That was not a thing that he was the judge in wrestlers court, and he was one of the most respected guys. He wasn't going around swinging on people.
He didn't need most respected.
And if you're that respected, you don't need to swing on people. So this whole premise of like, if Jack Perry did that to the Undertaker, he'd knock him out. And then Vince McMahon, no. And at the time, if you're taking this back to like 1996, 1997, the WWF is filling cars with concrete and blowing up buses and dropping shit off of cranes, and people are hit by cars and all. If Jack Perry in 1997 said to Vince McMahon or the Undertaker, "Hey, I want to go through a real glass windshield," they would have said, "All right, pal, let's call Hertz." You know what I mean? Like that just would have happened. They would have been like, "Yeah, that's fucking cool. Let's do it." Because it was the Attitude Era. Nobody gave a shit. Now it's 2023. We saw what happened when Goldberg hit a real window and fucked his whole arm up and almost had his arm amputated. He was like half an inch from severing the nerve. He's all that other shit when he hit that limo glass. So like, we understand the dangers of it now. But he fucking did it. I just think it was dumb. The whole thing is dumb. CM Punk had two contracts. He had a creative contract and a wrestling contract. So with his creative contract, he was trying to flex like Jack Perry wants to do the stupid thing, but I'm in charge of creative for Collision, so no, he can't do it. And everybody was doing what they should have done up to the point where it got physical. Young guy is supposed to rebel and think he knows better than the old guys. The old guys are supposed to go, "Oh, you young motherfucker, you think you know what's best. You don't know what's best."
And what bothers me about that too is Jack Perry's been in the business 10 minutes compared to CM Punk. So it's like, slow your roll, kid. Like, you're still green,
right?
Yeah,
but also so he shouldn't have said, but I don't know. Like, you're right. There was an opportunity to turn this thing into a real life thing, but I think it got once Tony Khan got involved, once like monitors got knocked over and Punk got in Tony's face and threatened him with physicality and all that other stuff. Like, I don't know.
CM Punk threatened Khan with physicality? I didn't hear that.
He got in his, I don't know if he threatened to beat him up, but he like got in his face and told him he quit and got like really like, nose to nose with him. So once he got in his face, I think that was it for him.
I mean, that's so beyond unprofessional, dude.
And Tony Khan said he felt uncomfortable or unsafe, and he's never felt unsafe at a wrestling show before. I'm in this stupid wrestling group on Facebook, and I'm not even going to give them the time of day to promote them. Don't bother joining it. But successive posts in one day were Tony Khan is a big pussy because he felt unsafe when CM Punk was yelling at him backstage.
Why does it make him a pussy? Have you seen Tony Khan?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't know if you know this. He's not a very big guy. You know, like if you look at him, he's a
You
small
could tell he can't fight. Like,
right. But
he's
then,
that guy that's going to run away.
Bro, the same day, somebody in the group goes, "Oh, I feel so bad for John Cena when he wrestled at the Hammerstein Ballroom. He must have been really scared that those fans were going to like jump the rail and beat him up." And I'm like, wait a minute. I thought you told me nobody's ever felt unsafe at a wrestling show ever, and that Tony Khan was the biggest pussy in the world because
maybe you should say the name so that people know not to join it.
It's called Yep, I Like Wrestling, and the Yep is with a capital YEP and an exclamation point. I literally only read it to get mad at people because it's the worst. One day I will send screenshots through the group chat, Steve. I sit there and I bang my head when I read some of these statuses. They're the dumbest things ever.
You fucking mark!
And that's exactly what it is. And it's a bunch of, and I don't want to get into the it's not a war anymore. There's never, the wars, there's no war. There are two established companies now, AEW and WWE. They both have their own fan bases. There's a little bit of an overlap, but they're doing their own thing. Both of them are in business for the time being. And you know what I mean? It's like, it is what it is. But there's still this online divide of like, oh, Tony Khan's a money mark. He doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't know how to run a company, this, that, and the other thing. Tony Khan's a billionaire. He's run football teams, both UK and US football teams, for longer than some of these people who've been complaining have been alive. He might not be a wrestling genius, but you know what? There's only one wrestling genius in the world. You've heard of them. Yeah, it's a bad group. I mean, if you want to join and laugh at them. But I'm always arguing. CM Punk, David Rosca taking the CM Punk in my mind sucks. I'm curious, David, since you're in the comments with us. Is it a like, did you always think that, like back in like 2010 ish, like right around that time when he was hot? Did you think that back then? And is it a wrestling thing? Like, is it strictly, I don't like him on the wrestling show? Like, I don't like his wrestling or I don't like his promos? Or is it, I don't like CM Punk, the guy CM Punk, and therefore I don't like him? I'm be interested to see if you get back to us in the next couple of minutes. And if you don't, it's okay. You can always leave the comment and we'll read it next week. But I don't know. It was an unfortunate situation. I had a quote pulled up since we're talking about it from Nick Khan, not Tony Khan, from Nick Khan of WWE.
Oh, I saw this. Yeah, go ahead.
Listen, we only have respect for Phil. We appreciate his run here, meaning the WWE. We appreciate what he did and tried to do with the UFC. That's a little sarcastic because he went 0-2 or 0-3. Not many people can actually get in there and do what he did. So when we have respect for Phil, we wish him nothing but the best. That doesn't exactly sound like a ringing endorsement, but never say never. It's the wrestling business. We
definitely
thought CM Punk
doesn't
was
sound
retired.
like they're rushing to bring him back.
No, and I think he needs to make steps to do something. Like, he's another guy where maybe, yes, he's straight edge. He doesn't have a drinking problem. He doesn't have a drug problem. But he's got a rage problem, or he's got an anger problem, or he's got an anxiety problem. Right. He's got that problem. It's something that, and it's hard. We talk about somebody getting rehab for drugs like Matt Riddle or Jeff Hardy. We don't talk about people going to and seeking the help that they need. CM Punk is not cashing an ECW champion. Yeah, well, he got cashed in on once, right? Didn't Punk get cashed in on? But Punk has also cashed in on JBL and somebody else. I don't know. But now I'm all turned around. But yeah, we talk about therapy or rehab for people who are going through a problem like an addiction. But this is a guy, like, I won't pretend to know Phil Brooks personally, but I know that he grew up. It was a rough upbringing. I know his parents weren't there. He had like an adopted sister, or like his dad wasn't around. There was all kinds of shit. Like, I pray that we don't bring him back. Man, it's a cancer scene. This is most fans' perception of him right now. And this is why I'm bringing it up. I think Punk needs to work through some stuff. I don't know if it's stuff from his childhood where because he didn't have a dad growing up, or the dad wasn't as present, or maybe he was like a drinker, whatever it was, that he doesn't like authority. We know that. That's always been a thing. But did it stem from that in his childhood? How do we, and how do you work past that to survive in a corporate environment? You know what I mean? CM Punk only one ECW championship. Not like, yeah, but he's a multi-time. I mean, he won the World Heavyweight Championship, and I know he won the WWE Championship a handful of times. So, considered, I guess, a modern legend of that kind of that era of the the Daniel Bryans and the Twice in a Lifetimes and all that. He was a big part of that show. But I think he needs to make steps. He needs to be like, hey, I'm getting therapy. I'm working through this, whatever. And when he, if he's ready to make a comeback, or if he even can at that point, because he isn't old, he's getting up there in age. But if he can kind of get through this thing, then, and I think that's been his that's probably been his biggest thing holding him back his whole life. If he can just get over this thing of disliking authority. And listen, I'm not, I empathize with him. Corporations stink, big bosses stink. You shouldn't have to work for them. It's terrible, whatever. But this is the world we live in, and you kind of have to play ball with certain people. And the thing is, if he doesn't want to play ball with businessmen like Vince McMahon or Tony Khan, then that means that you don't want to be in the wrestling business. If you don't want to be it, that's fine. But if you do want to be in the wrestling business, you have to meet people halfway. You have to make it, it would even a written statement, putting out some sort of, he doesn't even have to apologize to the Young Bucks or Jack Perry specifically, but just as a general apology of like, I realize that I might be a difficult person, whatever. And I'm seeking therapy. I'm seeking help. And once I am through with this treatment, I'm going to start working on my wrestling return. I don't know if he has it in him to do that. What do you think, Steve? I can't hear you.
It would be good if I unmuted my mic.
There you go.
I don't know. I really don't know at this point. I feel like I agree with you. He needs to work out the anger issues, and you're at a point in your career where you should be a leader.
Right.
And no matter how much a young Punk pushes your buttons, you should know where to draw the line. And that's why Undertaker, for example, was the most respected man in any locker room.
Yeah.
So, I think at this point, and I said this last week too, and I'll finish on this. If the worst thing that happens is that your last match was at Wembley Stadium in front of 82,000 people,
right,
ride off in the sunset and be happy. Not only that, you won the match.
Yeah, and it was a damn good match, dude.
It was a great match. So if that's the worst thing and that's the last we see of him,
yeah, kind of a good way to go out. So yeah, no, I agree, man. That probably.
And on that note,
yeah. Wow. Yeah, and usually no, because you so all right. Yes, very good comment. We'll finish out with this. Tara thinks no because he would have done it a long time ago. That's a very good point.
Yeah, that's true.
Something to ponder as we ponder the future of CM Punk in the wrestling business. But yeah, that'll do it for us this week. I know these late shows, sometimes we stay a little bit later, a little bit longer. Frankly, I'm tired as shit, and there's only two of us, so how much? Whoa, no, I don't. Oh my God, we gotta stop right there. David Rod, do you think CM Punk is going to commit? No.
David, how did you go to that dark of a place, bro? Fucking Christ.
I love it. I don't know why. I don't know how
I do too, but how did we go to that extreme?
David, never change. David, when I say some people need to go to therapy and seek change, I don't mean you. I mean, you should stay exactly the way you are. Holy shit. No, I don't think he's going to harm himself. I don't think he's going to do anything like that. He's not going to do anything to AJ Lee or his little dog either. I think he's probably going to be very angry. I think he's going to do another one of those podcasts. Here's my prediction. Here's my prediction for you, David. It's for everybody. Nick Hausman of House of Wrestling will do a special House of Wrestling podcast with CM Punk once all the legal ramifications of like contracts being expired or whatever, non-compete, whatever legal obligations Punk needs to clear with AEW, he'll clear. And then he's going to do another podcast. And it's not going to be with Colt Cabana because obviously not Colt. It's going to be with Nick Hausman from House of Wrestling, HAUS. And it's going to be the exact same thing as his WWE exposing podcast. But the change is this time he's going to come in and instead of like, they fired me via FedEx on my wedding day, he's going to be like, they sent a limo for me to the airport and my flight got there late, so I had to take the train. It's going to be like, what? The evidence, he's going to come in with the stuff that he thinks is like killer shit. It's like, this is going to bury him. And then you're going to look back and go, no. Because you can look back at some of the stuff, like especially with that Dr. Rahman and all that, Punk was done wrong in that situation. Now looking back, what did Punk do? Now that we know what Punk's like, how innocent is he in that whole situation? But who knows? But I think he's going to come out. He's going to do one of those podcasts, and then we're going to have a whole lot of content to talk about because that'll be juicy.
I'm sorry to cut you.
Yeah.
And not to change the subject, but I have breaking news.
Wait, what?
Becky Lynch is your new NXT Women's Champion. She just beat Tiffany Stratton.
6 minutes into the show. Tiffany Stratton, the soon to be, the one that they were putting all their chips in on, is the new.
This was the main event of the show.
Well, it was the main event. Oh, we're on during NXT. This is the overall.
Right. Okay. This is ending now. Well, and I never watched really NXT, but I knew Becky Lynch was facing Stratton, so I figured so I have it on in the other room. I could see through the door that Becky's holding up the title, but that could very much mean that they're putting a rocket in Tiffany's ass and they're bringing her to the main roster. Yeah. So I'm okay with that. You have Becky have a small run at NXT, although it doesn't really matter because she'll show up on every show anyway because, brand splits. The fuck does that mean? So
yeah, that's wild. I was trying to find something.
Actually, it was a great finish too. Tiffany has that Christopher Daniels World's Greatest Moonsault.
Oh yeah.
So she gets all the way up to the top. Becky rolls. So Tiffany rolls through it, gets up, and runs right into the Becky rock bottom. And that's how Becky won it. It actually looks pretty good. I'm watching the replay right now.
Damn. All right. So Becky, I don't know what that means for Becky Lynch. I guess we'll have to find out next week. Damn. All right. So I guess with all that being said, we'll be back with a lot to talk about. That scared the shit out of me. Oh my word. Oh, everybody listening with headphones. Oh my God, you ball! But Ryan, why did you help him install this goddamn thing?
It's great.
Oh my God!
I'm having way too much fun with it. But yes, anyway, go ahead and take it home.
We'll finish out now that we have the updated news. Becky Lynch, your new NXT Women's. She was never an NXT Women's Champion, as far as I know. So now she's kind of completed that.
Well, that's why she did this, because she said it's one title she's never had.
Is it a Grand Slam? If we count, was she Raw, SmackDown, Unified, or whatever? Like, has she? Yeah, she's either a triple threat or a Grand Slam at this point, which is pretty cool. But yeah, that'll do it for this week. Thank you guys for tuning in. Yeah, this has been the War Report, brought to you by TagMeADate. At TagMeADate, TagMeADate. That's it. All one word, no spaces, dots, or dashes on social media. You can find us all over the place. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. We're on Twitter, or X, I guess you would call it. We're on TikTok. We're on YouTube. I already said Facebook. We're on a bunch of stuff. Steve's on LinkedIn. We're on Twitch as well. Twitch is different. Everything is at TagMeADate. Twitch is twitch.tv/War Report. That's WARREPORT. All one word, no dots, dash, or spaces. And we're live 9 p.m. Eastern time, Tuesday nights. We have daylight savings coming up in, I think, November, whatever. So we'll keep you updated on that. Just, stick with us. We're always going to be at 9 p.m. now until we change the time again. So be sure to subscribe on the YouTube. Go to YouTube, type in Tag Me Date, hit subscribe, hit the bell to get notifications. We go live Tuesday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern time. You can go to the twitch.tv/War Report, and hit that the like button or the favorite button, whatever the hell that button is. Um, if you prefer watching it on Facebook, we have a Facebook group where we always live stream it. It live streams from my page and Steve's page and Steve's LinkedIn. And there are a lot of ways to find the podcast. That's the video version, the live stream. If you prefer the podcast version, the recorded audio only version, then you just have to go to your favorite podcast app: Stitcher, SoundCloud, Spotify, Google Play Podcasts, Apple Podcasts. Search for the War Report. Search for Tag Me a Date. You should be able to find it based on the graphic or the icon on the podcast and the description. You should know that it's our War Report. There's one other War Report that does pro wrestling, but we're not them. And you'll be able to tell the difference when you look it up. So subscribe, and then within the hour of the podcast going off the air, the audio-only version gets uploaded to your mobile device or tablet or wherever you have it subscribed. And that's how you can take the audio version with you. You can take it in the car or while you're doing your chores or whatever it is you're doing throughout the day. You can throw on a pair of headphones and just go ahead and listen to the podcast. And you can also listen to old versions on there. And if you go to our other YouTube, Twitch, etc., you can also go listen to older versions of the show on there as well. So with all that being said, we're going to be back next week, 9 p.m. Eastern time, for another edition of the War Report. One last thing, please remember to share, tell your friends, share and enjoy. If you know friends, your friends are wrestling fans, and they're looking for something to listen to, recommend them our podcast. The more people we have in the chat, like David and Tara, the more conversation goes around. We always get some great stuff from them, whether it's Tara hating on Black Machismo or David asking about CM Punk's potential demise. It's always a fun time when we have people in the comments. So the more the merrier. Let your friends know. We'd love to have them. Even if they don't comment, we still love to have them listen to the show. So we'll see you next week, 9 p.m. Eastern time, for another edition of the War Report. Have a good one, everyone.